Today on Total Maine, shock, grief, healing, and advocacy. For the first time, we're speaking with the family of Lewiston gunman Robert Card in a wide-ranging interview.
I am sharing this story because
the changes they want to be a part of. And Senator Angus King joins us to discuss his efforts to research blast injuries and veteran mental health. Plus, we go in the arena.
We're going to protect our veterans. We care about our veterans. Here's a chance to prove it.
Asking our experts whether lawmakers and the military have done enough to address failures exposed by investigations into the tragedy in Lewiston. Well, hey there, good Sunday, and thank you so much for joining us for a special edition of Total Maine. I'm Terry Stackhouse. It's been 16 months since a gunman carried out the deadliest mass shooting in Maine history. In that time, the Army produced the results of their investigation into reservist Robert Card. The Lewiston Commission released their report, and we've spoken with his ex-wife, Card's ex-wife. Today, for the first time, we are sitting down with Robert Card's sister and brother-in-law. James and Nicole Hurling have spent much of the last year and a half in private, but now they're sharing their story with us, hoping that their work can help prevent another tragedy.
It feels like we're moving backwards and we're not moving forward. And that's what we mean by we feel like people are forgetting about what happened.
Sitting inside their Brunswick church, the sister and brother-in-law of Robert Card describe how shock, grief, and healing have reshaped their lives and given them a new purpose.
I think that the big takeaway is we have to do something different. And I do feel like most people have gone back to their day-to-day life. It appears, or it feels like to me.
James and Nicole Nikki Hurling live with daily reminders of what happened on October 25th, 2023. 18 victims are memorialized on their living room wall and outside their home.
I don't ever want to forget them.
They want to bring mental health services, brain injuries, and veterans issues back to the forefront. As they look to reinvigorate those conversations, they serve here, preparing meals and offering mentorship. They bring perspective few others can. Nikki leads a recovery group, leaning on her own experience with drugs and alcohol.
I have to admit that once the tragedy had happened, I tried very carefully not to fall back into anger and resentment and look at things from a different perspective. And I think that what I want to do with my life is to help people and be that person that so many people have been to me that have changed the outcome for myself and my family.
For James, faith and family, he says, helped them get through the events surrounding October 25th, 2023, and opened his eyes to others in their community who are hurting.
We never in a million years would have thought he would have been capable of committing this tragedy. So therefore, just seeing how this could happen so close to home, it really has opened our eyes to where we can see we're kind of not alone. Other people are hurting in different ways. It may not be the same way that we are, but we want to be able to help and guide them through that.
Almost a year ago, Nikki decided it was time for a change. After 15 years working together in landscaping, she shifted careers and is now a case manager for a social service agency in Mid-Coast, Maine.
My brother's decline had happened so quickly. So for me to think that there's other people out there who are facing that same type of decline so rapidly concerns me. And my heart is to support people to identify and navigate the system that is so challenging to navigate on your own. I have learned through family and relationships and friendships growing up and going through recovery that it's really challenging to be the one to help your own family. My hope is that I can be a supporter for those family members and the people who are struggling with brain injuries.
Nikki wants to guide families and clients through the same systems that were so challenging for her to navigate during the summer of 2023 when she was trying to help her brother before he shut off contact. But that is far from the only interaction motivating her work.
I can't shake the face of the man that I met on Main Street in Brunswick the summer that I was trying so desperately to learn how I could help my brother. And He was dealing with schizoaffective, schizophrenia, paranoia of some type. And I called the police on him because I didn't know what else to do. I thought to myself at that time, who is this man's family? Where are they? And it's exhausting helping a person with mental health. You need a team. There needs to be a team. And so I want to be a part of creating a team for people who are experiencing mental health in their family.
For this family, a central figure is gone. Before the rapid deterioration of Robert's mental health, he was known among relatives as a fun outdoorsman.
Like to really take his nieces and nephews out and do things with them. He would take them fishing. He would take them out snowmobiling on the dirt bikes. You do a lot of outings with them and take them to have fun. And his son meant the world to him. It was not just his son, it was his best friend.
How difficult is it to preserve those fond memories and honor the character that he had at one point in his life, and then to look at the way things ended?
At first,
Actually,
it hurt. Didn't want to think it was true. I mean, it took so much out of me, I fell to the ground. Because I saw who he was, I couldn't believe it. I said, there has to be a reasoning. This can't be. I just couldn't believe it was true.
We were in shock and disbelief, unable to comprehend that Robbie was capable of such horror.
Since testifying before the Lewiston Commission last May, the couple has taken on advocacy surrounding blast overpressure, the result of shock waves linked to military weapons. Card was a longtime instructor at a grenade training range where he may have been exposed to thousands of low-level blasts.
I strongly believe that Robbie had a traumatic brain injury. I think that he was able to function really well for a long time.
The Hurlings share the view expressed in an analysis from the Boston University CTE Center that Card had a brain injury which likely played a role in his mental health. The hearing aids he was using, they say, made things worse.
He put them in, turned them up, and said, I'm going to figure out what these people are saying about me. And then with the injury, he wasn't able to make these connections and pathways like maybe you or I might be able to, and it drove him literally insane.
The Hurlings praised the work of Senators Susan Collins and Angus King, helping push the Pentagon to limit blast exposure and screen soldiers for injuries, but they want to see more.
We passed some laws on it. Now I'm working on the Department of Defense to actually implement the laws that we've passed.
In December, Congress passed parts of Senator King's Blast Overexposure Safety Act. It directs the Pentagon to limit blast exposure, especially during training, track that exposure, and modify weapons to reduce injury.
We're talking about screening the troops every year to see whether there's any problem that's arising. We're talking about preventative gear, the weapons themselves.
Just days ago, Senator King introduced a separate bill which would direct the Department of Veterans Affairs and their research partners to study the impacts of repetitive low-level blast injuries over 10 years at a cost of $5 million. But with federal spending under the microscope and no agency spared from cuts, its future is unclear.
Is there a buildup of a brain injury there? And if so, we want to know about it. We want to know what it is. And then we can take some steps to try to mitigate the damage.
I want to see that they're preventing further injuries, but I really want to know what they're doing with the soldiers who have already been affected. How are they supporting the families and the children, the wives of the people who have already been subjected to blast overpressure injuries?
A new aspect of their advocacy, too, is the Veterans Crisis Line. As the Trump administration continues its efforts to reduce the federal workforce, an internal memo leaked late last week revealed the Department of Veterans Affairs is planning an aggressive reorganization that includes cutting 80,000 jobs. This comes after several senators raised concerns over firings last month.
Now there's going to be workers there. They're going to try to deal with people who are in crisis. They're going to be overburdened. They're going to be burnt out, and they're going to be stressed. And they're not going to be able to help these people. We've spoken to people that have been on the line for over hours on waiting. I mean, that could be too late.
And advocacy from James and Nicole Herling is being praised by the CEO of the Concussion Legacy Foundation down in the Boston area. They're supporting one of their initiatives to study the brains of more service members in addition to the work they're doing with athletes. Coming up, we're speaking with their co-founder, Dr. Chris Nowinski. But first, we're going in the arena. Our panel of experts are here to weigh in on changes related to blast exposure risk implemented by the Pentagon after the Lewiston mass shootings.